Many of you know of mononucleosis, mono, also called the kissing disease. Well, if you ever had it growing up, you might want to listen up because new research is saying you might be at risk for other diseases. Take a look. A startling new study reports that the virus causing mono also increases the risk of developing 7 other major diseases. The diseases include lupus, multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, juvenile idiopathic arthritis, inflammatory bowel disease, celiac disease, and type 1 diabetes, which all affect nearly 8 million people combined. The virus is called the Epstein-Barr virus, or EBV, and is best known for causing mono. With over 90% of the population carrying the virus by age 20, this could be groundbreaking to the medical community. So how will this new study approach these diseases going forward? Wow, this is really a groundbreaking study, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is actually jaw-dropping. So when you hear all this jargon and you talk about genetics and autoimmune diseases and transcription factors, it can get very confusing. But the idea is that 90%, as was said in the video, of people have been infected with Epstein-Barr virus. And we hear about it with respect to mono because 1 in 4 people who've had this virus will develop mononucleosis. But actually, it's just like chickenpox, just like herpes simplex. A lot of people have been exposed to this virus, and then it remains dormant in your system. But what was so jaw-dropping and amazing about this research, which was recently published in Nature Genetics, which is a very, very well-established science journal, is that we now know that proteins from the virus, from Epstein-Barr virus, have something called transcription factors, which are like cellular switches. They turn off and on the genes that allow us to express all the proteins in our body. And so they found a link between the proteins or transcription factors from Epstein-Barr to turn on and off the genes that are implicated in all these autoimmune conditions. So lupus, multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, all the ones you mentioned in that video, which for years we've always known have been sort of an overactivity of the immune system, but we didn't necessarily know what the trigger was. So people always think when it comes to autoimmune diseases that it may be viral, it may be bacterial, it may be pollution, it may be habit related, but there's been a lot of conjecture without a lot of science behind it. This actually shows that like 90% of the population have been infected with this virus. These proteins may be turning on those genes for autoimmunity. It actually even plays out for certain types of prostate and breast cancer as well. Wow. So really, really wide-reaching, amazing discovery, sort of jaw-dropping implications. I mean, we've always suspected
that viruses may play a role in some of these autoimmune processes. I mean, we know that viruses play a role in certain cancer processes, so it's all about changing those genes, some sort of mutation. And
well, this gets me a little worried because when I was an intern and we were rotating through the cardiac care unit, and you know how it is, it takes like 3 hours to go through all those patients because you talk about it. And I was dressed with my little coat and tie that day, and by the time
short intern jacket.
Yeah, the short intern jacket because you weren't a real doctor yet, right? But by the end of it, 3 hours later, I had sweated through all my clothes, right? I was feeling horrible. My lymph nodes were huge, and it was mono. And it lasted for around a month. So now, what would you suggest to someone who's had mono like me in the past? What can you do? Just be observant, right?
Well, so Epstein-Barr virus, like many of the viruses in this herpes family, are transmitted by saliva. So if you or your kid has Epstein-Barr, which is really common, you feel lousy, you have fatigue, you have those swollen lymph nodes, be really mindful about the saliva droplets. Don't share utensils. If someone's sick, really take precautions not to spread it. But I think more excitingly is the implications for hopefully a vaccine for Epstein-Barr virus going forward, which currently they're in development, but none are on the market as yet. And then maybe even antiviral medication for while you're acutely infected to really shut down replication of the virus.
Because that would be new, because typically now, unless you have some underlying health issue that puts you at higher risk, they don't treat mono with antivirals.
No, but for example, the medications, some of the medications for HIV and AIDS stops that transcription so that the virus doesn't get into cells. So maybe that technology, it's fascinating, could be used for this, right?
Yeah. And we talk about like having the sex talk, maybe you should have the kissing talk too, because I think sometimes the potential medical ramifications of kissing are underestimated. You can get mono, or you can get cold sores like the herpetic virus. In some cases, it's not common, but you can get syphilis, or you can get gingivitis. So you can still get things through kissing.